amigos. My name is Franca. I'm your host. This is Francamente, the podcast. I'm so excited to be here with you. Thank you so much for listening. And without further ado, let's bias your football content. Hi, we are back with another episode. Time is flying. Time is flying by, man. It feels like these are happening more and more often, but I'm still doing them every 2 weeks. Thank you for joining. Thank you to everyone who's new, who has hopped on the bandwagon for the best podcast on earth. I love y'all. I love all my listeners. I love all the feedback. I'm so excited to bring all of this knowledge to you and analysis. I love it. I truly love it. What am I wearing today? I'm wearing a Brazil kit that is quite a few years old. It's personalized with my name, with my last name on it, which I actually got as a gift from a student when I was teaching in Boston. It was like the sweetest thing. She was Brazilian, and I used to do football Fridays back then, like religiously. Every single Friday I would wear a kit, and I would, like teach something related. At that point, I was teaching just Spanish language. So we would do something that was related to Spanish language and culture, obviously. And it would be around football. It was so fun. And so at the end of the semester, a student got me this like personalized Brazil kit, which is so cute. And I value the three giants in South America, right? As we all know, Southern Cone supremacy, Uruguay, Argentina, and Brazil. So I'm happy to wear a Brazil kit whenever it doesn't affect either of my teams. And I love it so much. So, and it's relevant because we're in World Cup qualifiers time, and I have already worn, well, now I have to look back. I know I've worn like all my Argentina kits because when we started this podcast, it was like World Cup craze. And have I worn my Uruguay kit? I think I have. I'm going to look back. But I'm going through my kits and trying not to repeat for as long as possible. Still have not repeated a kit. So that's really exciting. So that's what I'm wearing if you're watching on YouTube. And yeah, we're going to talk World Cup qualifiers today. We're going to talk South America. We're going to talk South American supremacy. And spoiler alert, not, because we have to do this every time. We have to talk misogyny and rape culture and violence against women in football again. So buckle in. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about how the World Cup qualifiers is going. I love World Cup qualifying time. When I was in Uruguay doing my research in 2016 for my dissertation, I went to 3 World Cup qualifying games at the Estadio Centenario, like the site where the first World Cup was ever played, right? And won by Uruguay. It was so exciting. I got so many amazing pictures of like Cavani, and it was amazing. I love World Cup qualifying time. It's exciting. Obviously, like for CONMEBOL, I don't really care about any other like federations. Like I don't understand it. I just don't like I don't care. But but because in South America it's simple. Everyone plays everyone and that's it, like a couple times. So I love it. What is going on? Excuse me. I did not plan that. Maybe we can edit that out. What is going on in South America? First of all, speaking of supremacy, let's talk about Bielsa supremacy. No Bielsa, no party. It's Bielsa hasta la victoria siempre, Bielsa hasta la muerte. Like listen, and I obviously, like, we're going to talk about the second game, but he hit the ground running with all, we're going to talk controversy too, what's going on, what happened with Luis Suarez, what happened with Cavani, but the man, how can, like, in Bielsa we trust. In Bielsa we trust. Is that the name of the episode? Maybe. You cannot tell me, and I've seen some of the discourse. Most of the discourse is like pro Bielsa, and it does fall along political lines because we know that fascists tend to over criticize folks who are on the right side of things, right? Like the correct side of things, the social justice side, and Bielsa is. So was Maestro Tavares. So like fascists really hate that the Uruguayan, like federation is always led by like cool progressives at worst, and some are like blatantly like true leftists. but just amazing stuff. How can you not be excited? I have not in my lifetime seen Uruguay start out a qualifier like that with such like a bang. And like, so Bielsa is so unapologetic. He said such amazing stuff about like the press in his press conference, like before the World Cup qualifier started. He was not releasing the list until he was ready. He's so him. He's so unapologetically him, and it's such like a breath of fresh air and such an inspiration to me. That I love it so much. I was so excited in that first game, incredible with all young kids, right? All young players. They just were playing a style that Uruguay hasn't seen in a very long time. Bielsa ball, like to the extreme. He hit the ground running. I love him so much. I love this for us so much that Bielsa's here, that Bielsa is doing his thing, that he's doing what he's doing. And I'm not even worried. So Uruguay obviously won the first game against Chile, which is not an easy opponent, okay, for Uruguay. So Uruguayans are extra pessimistic. That's just true. And so everyone was like freaking out, you know, like, because it's Chile first. But they won that game easy. It was such a good game. And then the second game, they lost to Ecuador. And there was a controversial call of a penalty that Uruguay was clearly robbed of. And I don't play that game of like, you know, oh, we were robbed a pen and that's the thing and like whatever. Like I in the heat of the moment, I get angry and I'll call it out and I'm like, oh, we were robbed a pen. But I'm very aware, and I always talk about this, that football justice doesn't always happen immediately, meaning like, you know, the football gods sometimes like give us our karma later, and they give us that back. And that's just the reality. People get robbed pens and calls all of the time. And it's arguable because you can't possibly know if something would have made the outcome be different or not, whether it's the pen, whether, you know, we can hypothesize, but the reality is that on this plane of existence, it happened how it did. So I don't think it's very useful to be like, if that one thing hadn't happened, like, all right, but it did. And in the heat of the moment, I get angry and it fucking sucked because like, who knows what would have happened truly, right? And so the game, like when that happens, then you always have, you know, if it's a loss, it's a loss, fair and square. But if those things happen, then it kind of leaves a little like, you know, like what would have happened if things had been different, and it sucks. But we're early on. I'm not worried at all about that loss to Ecuador because first of all, it's early. Like, you know, it's fine. Like it's fine. I know, like again, in Bielsa we trust, and like we're chugging along going forward. I'm so excited for what the future holds for the Selección Uruguaya. And I just can't wait. I can't wait to see. We're going to come back to that in a bit when we talk about the controversial stuff. But then, and so in that first, you know, match day, Brazil played Bolivia, beat them easy. Argentina played Ecuador, beat them. So, you know, Argentina's continuing their streak. I think it's been like 3 or 4 years since the Argentina, besides losing to Saudi Arabia in the World Cup, okay, ironically, that it's been like since, or maybe even longer, since that Argentina, the national team has lost a game. So that counts, right? Like not including friendlies, but also like I don't actually know about friendlies at all. But really exciting stuff from Argentina. Like Messi is in his best form. He's literally old. He's an old man. And he's living his best life, and we are here for it, baby. Okay, like living his best life in Miami, dancing all over MLS in this trash league, and enjoying himself clearly with this national team that he has around him of his little like fans. Really, ultimately, that's what they are, right? Like they grew up like being fans of his, and they get to play around him. Like it's so fun. It's fun to watch the Argentina national team recently, and I'm just so happy. And then match day 2 happened, and Argentina beat Bolivia again, you know, and Bolivia is not, I mean, it's not the easy, like, because people are like, oh, it's Bolivia, like, yeah, they don't make the World Cup often, but if ever, like, have they ever made the World Cup? But it's, first of all, it's not easy to play in Bolivia, and that's just a general statement. But you know, like sometimes underestimating your opponent backfires. We know that because football is not logic, sport is not logic, and, you know, games have to be played. So just you know, like good for Argentina for that. Like Uruguay did lose to Ecuador and it was only by 1 goal. So it's true that like what do you do, right, about that pen? And then Brazil beat Peru. So Brazil and Argentina are on top. And Uruguay is there like towards the middle of the table. But again, we've only played 2 match days. We still have the whole entire, you know, thing left to play. So it's exciting. I'm excited to see what happens. The next games are in October. And yeah, and it's going to be really cool to see what Bielsa does, especially around calling up or not Cavani and Suarez, right? Like what is going to happen with that? There's been some drama. And we're gonna talk about it. But yeah, World Cup qualifying time is exciting. It's you know, and sometimes people are like, I was explaining the other day to someone who has not watched a lot of football in their life, that like why they're playing now for like the World Cup, which is in 2026, and it's a long process, right? Like people, first of all, the players have their jobs, right? They work at their club, they have their club games, so they have to, there's national breaks, but there's like national team breaks, you know, but they're not like super often, and so they have to like have time to practice, come and whatever, and then they have to play every single, well, however, depending on the confederation, every single team a couple times, go here, go there. So it's a long process because of that. And I was explaining that, and sometimes I forget to like go back down to the basics, because I'm so like in this world. And so that was interesting to kind of have that experience. So it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, there's stuff that we can talk about, that isn't necessarily always like this other piece that we focus on so heavily because it's so needed and so important at Real Francamente, right? With that, we're gonna go to a little break. And then we'll talk controversy. See you in a bit.
Hey, what's going on? It's DJ525 here, and you're listening to the best podcast on earth, Real Francamente. Be sure to follow on Twitter and Instagram at Real Francamente. Check out the website for more content, www.realfrancamente.com. Subscribe on your favorite platform, leave ratings and reviews. Buy us your football content.
We are back. So we'll talk controversy. Both of them are kind of related to well, one is really related to World Cup qualifiers and the other one is tangentially. Oh my gosh, why is this happening? My brain is fried. My personal life is very hectic. It's all good stuff, but everything is crazy. So my brain works like about half the time. So with that, okay. So what drama is going on over at the Uruguay national team camp? Do y'all know? Bielsa unapologetically himself as the person trusted with the national team. He takes that job very seriously and he doesn't give in to pressure. He does what he does. And he's like, if you're going to trust me fully, right? And in his capacity as the expert, he did not call up Cavani nor Suarez. And he had his reasons, and none of it is personal. And he didn't say, and we need to be very, because a lot of people start to then like hypothesize and say like this, and whatever, like, oh, he's done, he whatever. But the number one thing is that Bielsa, with not calling them up for the first 2 matches, he didn't say he's never going to call them up again. You know, one of the things he said in response to all this, because everyone, like, it started like a chaos dumpster fire of nonsense. This is why when he did his presser, all of the questions were about this. And he was like, can we talk about football at all? Or like, do y'all care? Or like, you just care about this drama, right? He didn't call up Suarez or Cavani. He had his reasons. You know, he didn't feel they were ready. Both of them kind of, you know, Cavani just, you know, started at Boca. And he just felt like the squad that he had picked was strong. We have to respect that. We give someone a job. It's like managers can do no right. And sometimes managers truly can do no right. But we give someone this job. It's a high profile person. It's arguably the best manager in the history of the sport. How are you gonna pull this shit? Because then it also becomes about like the rivalry in Uruguay, like the Pinero Nacional thing. And it's like, oh, because he hates him because he's Nacional. Like people are just so like, that's like so pedantic, you know? So he didn't call up Suarez or Cavani. Cavani handled it like a true classy gentleman that he is and said barely anything at all. If, you know, he was like, if he doesn't feel I'm ready, that's his decision. That was like his response, right? If he was upset, he didn't show it. If he was upset, he didn't show it. Suarez, on the other hand, did not handle it with class. And Suarez has been a controversial figure forever. And some things are defensible, some things are not. We can't deny his influence. We can't deny his talent, right? But he's a hothead, to say the least, right? I think he's a good person fundamentally. And, you know, and there's stuff and there's nuance that we can discuss. But all of that aside, because we won't be discussing that today, he threw a little tantrum. He threw a little tantrum when he played the night that it was official, that he wasn't getting called. He scored a goal and he scored in Brazil, and he like pointed to his jersey number 9. Oh, because before this, the other thing is that Darwin called up Suarez personally and asked him if he could wear the number 9 because Darwin knew he was getting called up, and I guess there was like, it was known that Suarez wasn't going to get called up. So out of respect, because Darwin didn't have to do that, because that's also not his, it's not also Luis Suarez's decision, right? Who wears the number 9 if you're not called up. But out of respect, Darwin called Suarez and asked him to wear the number 9 kit. And supposedly, like, Suarez said yes. And that was that, okay? However, then when he scored that goal that night, when it was official he wasn't going to get called up, he like held up like his jersey like this, like his celebration was like pointing to the number 9 and to Suarez, right? As like a very clear like slap in the face to Bielsa and even to Darwin, I think, because I think that that's going to like Darwin also grew up watching and idolizing Suarez and like seeing him do that, like, oh, like I'm the true number 9, right? While his intention was probably just to like, you know, slap Bielsa in the face, like it had to be hurtful to Darwin too, you know? So then not only did he do that, and so then that started to like go viral, the pictures of it and everything, but then after the game, he posted himself on his Instagram stories, like more fodder. He was like, oh, I'm the true number 9 and whatever, like Uruguay true number 9 or some shit like that. And it was just so unnecessary. It's like unnecessary drama for no reason. Just like totally like, why? Like, why? What? Like, I get being upset, but like, how self-centered are you that you assume you're entitled to a position? And then to be like, okay, like maybe I'm not called up this time. It doesn't mean that he's not going to get called up for other qualifying matches. And like, truly, like, let the young kids have their time. Uruguay has been an old, slow, defensive squad for like generations. Like, let us see what Bielsa can do. If we're going to trust him, I think we have to trust him fully. And like, for me, like, that's that. Like, that's that. I'm on the Bielsa side of things forever, always and forever on the Bielsa side of things. And so I trust him. I trust his decision. And I think that Suarez throwing a tantrum, first of all, it's a bad look for him. It's a bad look. It's a bad, you know, for everyone that looks up to him, like for people like Darwin. I just think it's not healthy. It's just not healthy. And maybe there's a reason why you weren't called up, Suarez, that has to do with your personality and your, you know, and the way that you reacted. Like, if you thought that was going to be the way to get Bielsa to take you back, because Bielsa hates that shit. Bielsa's a no nonsense, like no drama kind of person. So that wasn't the way. So I don't know what's going to happen going forward. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on like Suarez and Bielsa beef watch. And see where that all goes. And on another like controversial front having to do with South American World Cup qualifiers, the Brazil Federation did not call up Anthony, who plays for my team, Manchester United, and has assault allegations against him by 2 women. And United still has him on the playing list. United has handled all of these situations so poorly, so I'm not surprised. Brazil took a stance, did the right thing. But obviously when stuff like that happens, also it's like we can't really give them like that much credit, because a lot of times they do it for like because these allegations are actually not new. They have been, it's been at least a couple months. I remember hearing it months ago and then like nothing, crickets, which is something that like tends to happen. But that, so now I'm not sure if it's because the World Cup qualifiers were coming that Brazil decided to take the stance now. I assume, I guess like that's why. But then Manchester United is not doing anything about it. The man looks creepy. Like if you Google him, like the pictures that come up, sometimes he look like, I'm scared of him sometimes. Like there's that one picture where like he's got like the bleach blonde hair and he's like looking so intensely. Like, I mean, we always believe, you know, victims on this podcast, but this is not one of those ones where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. You know, like so I'm not sure what's going on in Manchester. I'm not sure what's going on in England. And this is not, I mean, obviously this is not a specific to England problem. We've got rapists, misogyny, rape culture everywhere, obviously all over the world. But these big cases, you know, these big like notorious like big name cases like keep coming out. And it's like, when, you know, when this came out, I literally tweeted, I was like, when will I, like, how many more? Like, how many more of these cases are, you know, it's exhausting to be a person that just is in the space of football and has to, you know, talk about it, read about it. It's traumatizing. It's traumatizing to deal with like the misogynists that then come to defend these men, right? Let alone obviously the trauma that it causes the victims, but to like constantly like see this then like play over in the media, it's exhausting. But it's more than that, right? It's like the like systemic like power that they have to continue to do the shit and get away with it. Like it's so it's bad. It's bad, and it's getting harder to like even get excited about watching, right? And about like being complicit in all of this. And there is something to be said about like, which I say all the time, it's like no matter what you do, you're complicit, you know. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism, but that also is not the catch-all, and imperialism, obviously, that's not the catch-all like excuse for us to just like do whatever the fuck we want whenever the fuck we want to, you know, like too. So it's tricky, but it is getting harder to like get excited about, you know, because like when is the next star gonna fall? You know, like when's the next situation that that we're going to have to like talk about seriously, you know, but Brazil did the right thing, you know, despite him being one of their better players currently, like, they did the right thing. So I don't know what is going to happen with that. I don't know what Manchester United's going to do, going forward. And I just hope that they do the right thing as well. And that, you know, that we that we can get to a place where this doesn't happen as often, where it gets to a place where we're not like just not shocked at all that this stuff happens, because it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Yeah. League wise, I don't really know, again, because I'm extremely busy. And so I haven't actually like really gotten into any league games too much. But yeah, it has to also do with that lack of like, like, why am I gonna bother? You know, like they're on the next day, like there's gonna be another scandal. So I'm kind of in a slump. I need to like find my passion again. One of the things that I think will help is that I'm currently staying in a place for a job that is like football central, and I see kits everywhere. I'm currently teaching somewhere where I see at least a kit a day, and I have worked somewhere for the past 5 years where I had never once saw one single one the entire time, and that's, you know, related to the demographics of the folks. So like I think that's going to be the thing, is like getting more involved in that community and like seeing, you know, like getting back excited about like kits and all that stuff. But we'll see. But with that, we will call it a day for today. Nice short episode. Yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for listening today. I hope you liked it. This has been Real Francamente, the podcast. My name is Franca. I'm your host. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Real Francamente on both. Check out our website, www.realfrancamente.com. You can find lots of content there, or contact us directly with any questions or comments. All links and @ will be in the show notes if you need them or want them, and for ease of not having to spell it yourself. Please subscribe on your favorite platform and maybe leave us a rating and a review, and share with your friends. Don't forget to buy us your football content. Gracias y ciao.